foolish mortals.
Hello there. Are you insane? Get out of here!
Remain seated with your seatbelt fastened.
Right, off you go. Welcome to Average Joe Orlando. Hello, theme park goers. Welcome to another episode of Average Joe Orlando. I'm excited to do this one. We have extra Tuesday this month, so I was able to throw in an extra one. So if you don't know, every month for the podcast, there is a order. So starting off with the list on the first Tuesday comes out. The second one will be the review and advice. The third is a history where I do a deep dive of something, and then wrapping up with the recap for the month. However, in October of this year, we have an extra Tuesday. So when I was plotting out the episodes, I was like, ooh, now I could actually throw in a list of my favorite Halloween Horror Nights Orlando 2024 houses. So this is a great list that I was able to put together because I was able to go to the event many times and see things numerous times. Also, I got to do an RIP tour this year, which is the VIP backstage tour they do, and get to see everything and learn more about the houses. And they tell you a lot of cool and interesting details. So I'm excited to share some hidden details I found out with you about the houses, talk to you about what the houses are, and then also rank them. So let's get into the ranking of my Halloween Horror Nights houses for 2024. So I will start off by saying there was no bad houses this year. Not that there's ever bad houses. It's the best event in the world. How could there be any bad houses? However, there are houses every year that are better than others and more memorable than others. And I have... So, disclaimer, I've only been to the event only 7 times this season so far. I know, I'm slacking. But I'd love to go numerous times and experience the houses more than once. And this is because you never know how you're going to hit the scares. And hitting the scares means basically you don't know if the actor is going to get the person in front of you, people behind you. Maybe there's somebody that called out. There could be a shift change where they swap out every 45 minutes. And sometimes you're catching them in the middle of the change and you miss a bunch. So my rankings have definitely changed as I've gone through. So as I talk about my rankings, I'm going to talk about how many times I've been through them as well, just because it has shifted as I've done them more, seeing different details, maybe got to see a better scare, got hit a little better one time. So every time it's a little different. But for now, this will be my current ranking as of going 7 times to the event. So my number 10 house this year is Triplets of Terror. This became my least favorite house for different reasons, but I've been through this house now 3 times. And the theme of this house is you're invited to the Barmy's Triplets birthday celebration, but their kind of party involves recreating the murders of their entire family. Lovely, right? So this whole house is basically a slasher house. And I learned that apparently every year they try to do a slasher one. However, a lot of times they'll do like Halloween or have a big IP, so an intellectual property house. This year they don't have a lot of intellectual properties. They have more originals. So because they don't have a traditional slasher house, they created this one. There were some interesting things about this one. So this is Halloween Horror Nights 33 here in Orlando. And so they did them as the triplets because there are 3 triplets. The theme of this house is you start off at their 9th birthday party, so 3 times 3, 9, so 33. And every year they recreate the murder that they did on their birthday, which is March 3rd, 33. So a lot of cool little Easter eggs in there. Also, when you walk up, their house number is 3324, so Halloween Horror Nights 33, 2024. So very neat little things they did in this house as well for that one. Overall, the reason that this became last on my list was it was just kind of the same scare over and over, which is fun. Halloween is always one of my favorite ones because it is kind of the same scare, but you go through the movies. This one felt like you went to a party, the triplets came out, they're sadistic, they try to kill you, call it a day. It's fine. Not my favorite. I've been through it, like I said, numerous times, and it's good. It's just, wouldn't say my favorite one for this year so far. Number 9, the museum Deadly Exhibits. So the theme of this house is a folklore museum's newest exhibit. The Rotting Stone has released an evil spirit that decays everything, and it's coming for you. Now this is a unique one. This one is in a tent. The first one, Triplets of Terror, is in one of the sound stages in the front. So if you don't know, they separate things where they have to squeeze them in the park. And people always say the tent houses or the soundstage houses, or there's the Fast and the Furious one, which is also a tent. But it's interesting. And there's no really rhyme or reason from what I see is why certain houses are in certain locations. There's not one that's better than the other because with the tents, they could still do a lot of really impressive things. These are the older tents, and they redid the queue this year. It's now through The Simpsons, and they really worked on whoever did the queues this year and the merge points. I could say did a really great job. That was a big improvement this year. It seems like if you go through Express, you don't merge as far back, so you don't have to wait as long. The queues, I like that this one was like a covered queue with fans, which was nice. So good improvements there. Now, this one, you go through a museum, and it reminds me of if you've ever been to Mystic Manor. I've seen the videos in Hong Kong Disney where the museum kind of comes to life and all the artifacts come to life. However, instead of a happy one like at Disney, this one, everything's trying to kill you. So you notice the desk is alive in the first scene, and as you go through, some of the masks on the wall are moving. And it's a neat house. It's not my favorite house, but the coolest fact that I found out about this one, it features the HHN bear. So if you don't know Halloween Horror Nights and you're not a crazy fan like me, you might not realize this, but every year they put a Halloween Horror Nights bear in a house. And they've had the bear be either a statue, he's been in the tribute store before. They've had bears in the Yeti house, I believe that was last year, 2 years ago, where the bear attacks you. So there's always a Halloween Horror Nights bear that the creative team does, and this house features the bear statue. So it was very neat seeing that bear statue again and going, oh, there's the HHN bear. But Museum Deadly Exhibits will be number 9 on the list. Number 8, Monstros. This is the Latin American Monster Stories one. This one I've been through now 4 times. I would say my first night that I went. So I go opening weekend. I'll do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I'll spread out the houses just so I'm not walking to 10 houses and kind of doing it all in one night. So like I'll do 4 houses my opening night, and then Saturday 3, then 3, and then after that weekend I'll do my first ranking. This one was last, and it did move up, luckily. Because the first time I went through it, it was kind of lackluster, not a lot of actors in it. Also, you don't really understand because there are 3 Latin American monster stories, but the more you go through it, the more you understand the stories and what's happening. Also, I had better scares the second and third time. It's neat because this one was in Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood last year, and they shipped a lot of it over to Orlando, and then the Orlando creatives got to do whatever they wanted with it, and they actually even made it bigger. And then for Universal Studios Hollywood, they brought this house back this year, however, it did 3 new stories, so it was able to do more of a sequel house to this one. So that's a neat fact for this one. But Monstros will be a number 8. This will be actually the first house that you see when you walk into the event. And as I spoke about with my advice podcast I did on Halloween Horror Nights, sometimes I always say, don't hit this one first, but it really depends on the wait time. I've noticed if you walk into the park, a lot of people see this one first. It's right next to Despicable Me. It's in a soundstage. And they run to this one because it's the first one they see, but the back is less busy. But as the night goes on, this one's great because it's at the front, so everybody is in the back of the park or spread out throughout the park, and they're not really at the front, and this one doesn't have as long of a line. This one also has a completely indoor queue inside of a soundstage that is super air conditioned, so another win. Number 7, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So this is for the new Ghostbusters movie, and no, not the one with the women Ghostbusters, the new one with Paul Rudd. If you haven't watched the movie, I don't think it would be it'd probably be like low on your list. I got to watch this movie. It was fine. I don't need to see it again. I'm glad I watched it on a plane to kill time. But it's neat because it is a walkthrough of the movie, scene by scene. Some cool facts I learned about this one, that it features all the ghosts from the other movies. So if you are a Ghostbusters fan and you remember, I think it's the second one where that painting guy comes to life, he's in it. It was neat, the library lady where she's like, shh. She's in it from one of the movies, one of the original movies. So it was really neat that they had a lot of that. Also, the last room has a car from one of the older movies that unfortunately our tour guide told us was somebody cut it in half. So it's only the front half of the car from the Ghostbusters, but that's neat that that's in there. And in the last scene, which is a big scene with all of the Ghostbusters, they have 3 different years of proton packs. So that's like the backpack that they wear. And there's 3 different generations of them in there as well. Also, it's the largest or the tallest building ever built for a house. They built the 3-story firehouse as well. So that was a neat addition. When you come into it, they do a really great job at Halloween Horror Nights of doing these small, tight hallways that open up into these grandiose rooms. And since this is in a soundstage this year at Ghostbusters, they were able to do this giant building inside of it. And they did projection mapping to make it look like it's getting covered in ice. And then as you walk in and you're like, wow, and you're in awe of this giant house and it's getting covered in Elsa's snow, whatever. You turn around and all of a sudden it's the Stilt Walker, who's the actor of the bad guy of this movie. And he is the main villain. So it's less of a scary house, more of a fun house to me. They have the little Stay Puft Marshmallow Men all around it that you kind of see, and some of them move, which is really cute. So there's a lot of things to look for in this one, but it's a scene-by-scene walkthrough. I love that it starts off, and I was like, oh, I know where I am. You go into the room from back in the day, and everything's cold, and they really pump the AC in there, so it's a great house to go in to cool off as well, since it's a Frozen-themed house. It's one of those houses, too, that right when you think that you're done, outside of it, they have a stilt walker trying to get you. Monstrous House has that as well. Spoiler alert. However, it's a fun house. Not the best house I've ever been through. It's definitely one of those that I've been through this house now 4 times. I've noticed a lot of times there was a lot of holes in it where did not see actors. And unfortunately, it's not very scene driven or driven by what to look at. It's more driven by the actors. So if you come down and there's no actor in the one room, you're kind of just walking through an empty room with nothing happening. But overall, fun house. Still like the original Ghostbusters house they did a few years ago better. That was a little bit more exciting for me, but this one, still a fun house. Number 6, probably one of my most anticipated houses, but made it to number 6 is Slaughter Cinema 2. And now this is a sequel house to Slaughter Cinema. And this is a fun house. So there's a lot of fun houses this year, which I enjoy, the ones that are more campy. This features 10 movies, and the idea of this movie is, this house is that you're going through all these B movies. So you start off and it's outside, and there's projections of a movie theater with cars, and you go into Slaughter Cinema, and then each one has a preview of what the movie's going to be, a poster with a fun tagline, and there's a lot of cool details, and you go in through a room or two for the movie, and then you go into another hallway, go into the next movie. The pre-show that is outside of everything, that is projected on the building. Now that was all filmed inside the house, we learned, so that was really neat, that when you go see the different movies, they actually take place inside the sets that are built inside. There's a Mardi Gras themed movie and a Christmas one, and apparently Universal Creative used the creative teams that do Mardi Gras and Christmas to help design those two, which was really fun. And then the fun part about this one is if there's one that's really popular, it'll become its own house. So for instance, they did a Yeti themed movie inside the last Slaughter Cinema, which spawned off into its own house, the Yeti one. Personally, there's one this year that is called Mummy Strippers, and the tagline is "They bear more than their souls." And I would love to see if that became a house because it's just so ridiculous and fun. There's also one that looks like Jaws, Blood and Chum, I believe it's called. And there's a shark that attacks you, a giant shark puppet. But the Mummy Strippers one is just kind of this funny, ridiculous kind of theming that everybody in the queue, my first night I went to it, somebody was talking about it. I'm like, what are they talking about? Then I went through the house and went, oh, this is it. So it's one of those fun, memorable ones that they do. Nothing too spooky or scary in it, more just something that you can enjoy and you can laugh. And they used to always do a fun house, so this one becomes that fun. Good details, lots of things to look at and see, so definitely one that you want to keep going. But that would be for Slaughter Cinema 2, which is featured in one of the older tents over by Men in Black this year. Number 5, Major Sweets. Now, I've been through this one as of now 4 times. The theme of this house is that you are chaperoning a field trip to a candy factory when the free samples transform the kids into candy-coated killers. Ooh. So Major Sweets, I was excited for this one because this was a street 2 years ago. So when I say street, I mean a scare zone, and this was in the New York section, and the whole theme of that one was that it was a parade going on, and all the kids were running around, and there was Major Sweet there with this candy truck, and the kids are eating the candy and killing people. So this is a prequel to the Scare Zone that was 2 years ago, which is, according to our guide, was the first time ever that they did a prequel house, which was very neat. And it was very plotted out that it literally picks up the next one after. Because if you start off and you enter the factory, and think if you're going to like Hershey's Chocolate World, but everybody's crazy. That's fun. But you start off with Major Sweets and you go into his office. And if you look closely at the wall, there's a map, and it's the New York section of the park. And it has mapped out the parade, which became the scare zone, which was 2 years prior. So it's neat that it literally starts right where the scare zone picked up, if that makes sense. But a very neat, very fun, has a lot of smells. This is the only one that has this year guest activated triggers. So for those of you who don't know, a guest activated trigger is something that there's like a buttons through the house, and when you press it, it sets off something. So this one is neat because it has buttons. There's 3 of them. I've only found 2 so far, but I was told there's 3 that are through the house. And when you press it, it might shoot water, make a noise. But these are things that they encourage you to press. And they do them in a few houses where they have guest activated triggers throughout the years. So this is the only one with this one. And this one's themed also has a theme for the ending. Each one usually has a different ending. You make it out alive or anything like that. This one, unfortunately, you die at the end. You get thrown into the trash compactor, or as Major Sweet says in the end, destroy the evidence. So each one has a different like theming of your storyline in there. And this one, unfortunately for you, not a happy ending. But it's a fun house, and I recommend it. This is over at Fast and the Furious. Very cool because they this is the first time they did it as one section. They used to do half and half in the queue, half in a tent. This one, they did the entire thing in a tent, which is wild that they could squeeze an entire tent back there. So a lot of empty space between the buildings, and the whole building is basically a waste of space because that ride's terrible. But hey, at least we got a great house out of it. Number 4. Insidious. So this one, had no idea this is one of their big IPs this year, Insidious. Apparently there are 5 Insidious movies. Did not know that. Insidious is definitely by far the scariest house, not only of this year, but for me, somebody who's been coming to Halloween Horror Nights since Halloween Horror Nights 21, and this is 33, the scariest house I've ever done. It's eerie, it's creepy. I've now been through this house 5 times as of this recording, and this is in a sound stage, so you know it's going to be a bigger house and what they do with detail. Everybody's saying this is the scariest house. However, if you play it up in your head that it's going to be the scariest house, it might not be. I can say it depends how you get hit with the scares. The first time I went through, the people in front of me got them all, and you could tell they were just screaming, so the actors went after them. However, the second time I went through, I was like, all right, this isn't that bad. No, it was. This features the mirror room, but they do it twice, which is a really cool feature. So the mirror room, if you remember like the Weekend House, they've done it, where they have a bunch of mannequins all over, and there's different mirrors, and it's dark. And as you walk through, you know that 1 or 2 of them are actors. So they do this twice through the house. So towards the beginning of the house, you walk in, and there's all the mannequins all over, and of course, one of them are real. And then towards the end of the house, they do this again. They also do a really interesting scare, which I've never seen before, where one actor has 3 spots to scare you. So throughout the houses, you might notice where like an actor can come out one side, and then you turn the corner and the actor can come out that side too. So if they really are good at getting you and you look scared, they can get you twice. This one has this room where you go through like kind of curtains or sheets all over the wall. I don't know the movie theme, and after going through this house, I'm not going to see it. But you walk around this like pathway, and the actor is up on a platform in the sheets and can get you 3 different times to scare you. And they must be burning a lot of calories because they are just popping out left and right and getting you. But it was the first time I've ever got to see one of these where 3 spots they got you. Very cool house, very scary, definitely scariest one I've ever been through. Definitely want to go through it again. It's one of those that every night that I go, I'm like, can we do Insidious? Just because it's so good. Very fun house. Number 3, A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place, number 3, been through that as of now 3 times. If you have watched the movies, it'll definitely be a little better for you because it does follow the first 2 movies, and they do different scenes. There are a lot of little Easter eggs too to the movie. So as soon as you start off, there's a store and you see the little NASA spaceship on the side, and every once in a while it goes off. And if you know the movie, you know what that is about. Quite sad. It starts off in a really, really dark hallway where especially if you go during the daytime and your eyes don't adjust, it is really dark, but it's completely quiet, and you go through this hallway, and then one of the monsters jump out of the side. It does rely heavily on puppets or animatronics and things like that. However, it is the first time that I've been through a house that's quiet. Our guide was telling us that apparently they did their own soundstage. Usually 2 houses will share one. So they'll have curtains between, they'll share because the sound stages are so big. They wanted to make this one so quiet, they gave it its own soundstage. And then they also put up the sound curtain as well to help make each hallway quiet. There's a lot of low, like a humming noise throughout the house. And then there's also, if you know the movie, the hearing aid when it makes the loud high frequency. There's that, but other than that, though, it's a very quiet house and very unique. When they announced this house, I was like, how are they going to do a quiet house? They did it. It's also the first time our tour guide was telling us that they used ASL, American Sign Language, in the house, and the actors got to learn different signs to do as well as they perform in the house, different scenes. It's a very cool house, a very different house. One of those houses that if you get caught by the puppets or the animatronics that pop out, it's definitely going to scare you because it is one of those that the sounds catch you off guard because it is so quiet and then just gets really loud quickly. So don't be loud or they will come and get you. My number 2 house this year is Internal Bloodlines. Now, this is the Universal Classic Monster House. This is the 3rd year they've done the classic monsters, and this year they did an all-female monster lineup. So the theming for this house is get caught in an epic battle as Saskia Van Helsing and the Bride of Frankenstein go up against Dracula's daughter and her monstrous mavens. So this is a fun house. Apparently it is an all-female cast. First time they did that and a female creative team that did it as well. And this one starts off with, and it's snowing inside. They love to do that every year. There's usually a house that snows or raining. The triplets, it's raining when you start. This one, it's snowing. And you start off, and she's at the grave about to avenge her brother's death because she is the last one in the bloodline for the Van Helsing. So her and Bride of Frankenstein want to team up against Dracula's daughter. And then there's also different monsters as well. There's Oksana Moon, I want to say is her name, the one from The Mummy. So if you ever watched the Mummy movie as well. And then there's also a female werewolf as well that comes through. So it's a whole battle, and you go through these different scenes. There's a really cool one with the werewolf where they use this scare sometimes, and it's hard to see because it's a long reset. However, if you get it, it's great, where they're on a track and they're connected by their back and they swing forward to grab you. So that's a really fun scare that's in there. There's also bigger sets in there where Van Helsing's above you and she's trying to like warn you to go ahead. I will tell you for the ending though, spoiler alert, Van Helsing dies. Bloodline's gone. And there is a whole storyline in there, if you really catch it, that the Bride of Frankenstein has now taken her body back to the Van Helsing grave. But at the end, about 3/4 of the way through, very surprised, one of the Dracula's daughters holding her head. And I was like, oh, she didn't make it. Not a happy story. But a very cool house, makes it for number 2 on the list. This is in the way back. You have to enter between the Fear Factor stage and Men in Black, and you turn the corner and head all the way down. They have a bar and a restroom, which is great. And then they have a big new parking lot that they plowed and they paved, and then they put the 2 tents back there, so you could do the 2 back to back. And the other one is my number 1, Goblin's Feast. So a nice little hike to get to the 2 top houses in my book. However, definitely worth it, and it's neat that they're right next to each other. Goblin's Feast is fun. If you've ever been to like the Efteling in the Netherlands theme park where it's all fairy tales, it feels like that, but twisted and weird. This one is enter a goblin village where a feast is being prepared for goblins, orcs, hobgoblins, and witches. And you're the main course. So it is a fun house. Every time I've been through it, I've walked out laughing and got some good scares in there. Some really interesting sets for a tent. They have built some very large sets. If you look at the front, you walk into like the cottage where it says Goblin's Feast, there's a sign. However, it's covering a main sign that says Human Chop House. So the whole theme is that you're coming into this one. So you're supposed to be invited in to see how they celebrate, but you're the meal. And what I learned about it, which is neat, is you go through the different classes. So you start off with like the lowest class of the goblins, and then you end with the king. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. So you start off at the tavern, and they're cooking for the giants that are out there, and you end with the king at the end. Also, there's a giant hand in one scene, and I learned that hand was actually the King Kong hand used in the tribute store, I want to say 2 years ago, where it looks like he's holding you. It's the same prop, so they reuse a lot of the same props, which is really fun. There's also one part where you go under a drawbridge, because they live under the bridge, and then the whole theme at the end is the guards are distracted, and it says catch of the day, and there's a human in there. It's the only human that's in the entire house. The rest of them are all goblins, but they caught their catch of the day, which is a person. She's looking like, help, help, and you walk by, you go, good luck, and you keep walking. Giant puppet at the end scares you, and then the best scare is at the end where it's like a gesture guy, and he has a great prosthetic on his face where he looks like he's talking to you, and he's like, oh, thank you for coming to the Goblins Feast. Oh, they're escaping. Guards, get them. And happy ending. You escape. So you get to go to Goblins Feast, and you get to live to tell about it. It's a win-win. Anyway, I hope you learned something new for this year for Halloween Horror Nights. And I hope you got to enjoy the event as well, because the event's great. Every year it's fun. As I mentioned, never a bad house. They're all fun, all 10 of them. So I hope you enjoyed the list, and I will see you in the fog.
Thanks for taking a ride with Average Joe Orlando.
You made it! I knew you would.
Is everyone okay? Hope you still want to open an account.
Say cheese. See you later.
Thanks, everybody. You were brilliant.
At this time, gather up your personal belongings and take your small grubs by their grubby little hands as you exit. Thank you.